Take your seats. Do it the old Marine Corps way.
Sir.
How are you, Mr. About 5 seconds to take your seats and 3 seconds have gone by. Oh, we're moving one step every day.
What's going on here, sir?
Somewhere, I'm sure.
So anyhow, there was really
Still doing it. Email just got we hired a videographer because my sister said she's not gonna. Just sent me the link. I'll check that out.
If we started. In a hurry?
Oh, I know. I'm already facing that way.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Winnebago County Board meeting to order. Our invocation and pledge allegiance this evening is Ms. Dorothy Red. I do not see her present, so Mr. McCarthy, would you like to do the invocation and pledge, please?
Most Heavenly Father, we come before you, dear Lord, thanking you for all the wonderful gifts that you provide us in our lives, and also to provide us with a good conscience, so all the decisions made here really do affect, and hopefully for the best for our community. Christ our Lord.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Mr. Thompson, are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening?
No changes, thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Gummow, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will start with Mr. Lindmark.
Present.
Mr. McCarthy.
Present.
Mr. McDonald.
Present.
Mr. Neighbors. Mrs. Red. Mr. Salgado. Mr. Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Tassoni. Mr. Webster. Mr. Westcott. Mr. Arena. Mr. Booker.
Present.
Mr. Butita. Mrs. Crosby.
Present.
Ms. Fellers.
Present.
Mr. Gurl.
Present.
Mrs. Gorel. Mr. Hoffman.
Present.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
How about one more time for Mrs. Red? Thank you. Chairman, that is 17 board members present, 3 board members absent.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. We'll move on to awards, presentations, public hearings, and public participation. We have one public participation this evening. I will read the comments. Your comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may not address zoning matters which are pending before the ZBA, zoning committee, or the county board. Personal matters or pending or threatened litigation may not be addressed in open session. An individual may speak a maximum of 3 times per calendar year on the same topic. This prohibition shall include the repetition of the same topic in a statement on what is purported to be a different topic. Personal attacks or inappropriate language of any sort will not be tolerated. And tonight we have Reverend Earl Dotson Sr. Reverend.
The Bible. I will sing of loyalty and justice to thee, O Lord. I will sing. A haughty looks and an arrogant heart I will not endure. Wisdom and ideals are fundamental to sound government, as this spirit matters. Contrariwise, pride, greed, selfishness, cruelty causes strife and misery. A relevant analogy is the current China-United States relationship, for it shows how a rising power can dislodge a ruling power. And many in America see black citizens as a rising power that has been and still is denied justice that the psalmist maintains. All thinking blacks and many white realists recognize that if given an equal opportunity, blacks not only compete, they can excel in almost every endeavor. This is frightening to the so-called ruling powers, who will stop at nothing to prevent this dislodgement. It is why you hear with increasing frequency of another American Civil War, and it is not unthinkable. Chinese people who used to live in bamboo huts and earn less than $2 a day have moved 500 million people out of poverty from 1981 to 2004. It has surged past the United States with most billionaires in the year 2015, and is now adding a new billionaire every week. It is the world leader in producing computers, semiconductors, communications equipment, and get this one, pharmaceuticals that we put in our bodies, ships, steel, aluminum, furniture, clothing, textile, and the list goes on. Cell phones, automobiles, all of this in one generation. Semiconductors threatening to, simultaneously threatening to invade Taiwan, which produces 92% of the world's semiconductors that power our smartphones, our computers, our guided missiles. If successful, the American economy collapses or we go to war. This is realistic fear that the blacks could accomplish something comparable as we seek, as I stated before, $200 million from every federal agency except 3. But unlike China, we are obligated to remind the so-called ruling people here of Psalm 121 that can change hearts, making harmonious and peaceful living possible, trusting God's justice, which is real. This is from the Black Anthem, a few words. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet, with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last,
Reverend
where the white
Dodson,
gleam of our star
Your
is
time
cast.
is up. Thank you.
Right? Thank you.
Okay. Move on to item number 6 on our agenda, the approval of the minutes. May I entertain a motion to approve the June 9th, 2022 minutes and lay over the June 23rd, 2022 minutes. Mr. Hoffman motions, Mr. Neighbors seconds. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to that motion to approve and lay over? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Next is the consent agenda for the Raffle report and the auditor's report. Can I entertain a motion to approve, please? Ms. Red motions. Ms. Gorel seconds that motion. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to that motion? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. We do not have any appointments to bring forward this evening. Reports of standing committees. Finance Committee, Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee has 2 items. I'm going to go ahead and start with number 2, and then we'll move on to the first item that's on the agenda. The first one is the resolution authorizing settlement pending litigation, William Pillion versus Winnebago County et al., in the amount of $52,000, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, seconded by Ms. Crosby. Discussion, Mr. Salgado? Are there board member discussion? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to that motion? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is a resolution amending the fiscal year 2023 budget policy, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion?
Yes, I believe there are some changes that I'll yield my time to Mr. Arena for amendments.
Very good. Mr. Arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we just had some clerical changes to make to this and incorrect dates and so forth. So I'll go through it. In the title, it should 2022 to 2023. Second paragraph, last line, 2022 to 2023. The third paragraph, section titled Financial Strength, should read as follows. The county has been significantly impacted financially by the COVID-19 crisis. Revenues have been impacted by business closings, unemployment, and other factors. The balances in the general fund are above the 90-day reserve amount in fiscal year 2022. Everything that was in that paragraph is replaced by what I just read. On page 2, first paragraph, supplemental request, first line, 2022 is amended to 2023. And on page 3, first paragraph, third line, 2022 is amended to 2023. And the third sentence from the end, 2022 is amended to 2023. Next section, titled Fund Reserves, second paragraph of that section, second to the last line, 2022 is amended to 2023.
Moved by Mr. Arena to amend the resolution, second by Ms. Crosby. Is there any discussion on the amended resolution, as Mr. Arena stated? No? Are there any board members opposed to that amendment? Very good. Please cast a yes to all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so we move back to the regular motion, which is the resolution amending the fiscal year 2023 budget policy, and I so move.
Moved by Mr.
As amended.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. McCarthy. Any discussion?
Yeah, just real quick, the reason why this came back again was we, based on Ms. Marlena Dockin and Mr. Rickert, they wanted to put some language in there regarding grants. So it's highlighted in there, which areas, obviously the 10% indirect cost rate, and then obviously giving more standard practice based on, you know, anything below $25,000 awardees to third parties. So just to make sure that, you know, it doesn't cost us more money to administrative costs than that. So that's really the changes that occurred there, and they just decided to put that information in there to be realistic and standard practice.
Very good. Any other discussion? Are there any board members opposed to this amended resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present.
And that concludes our report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Salgado. Zoning Committee, Mr. Webster. Thank you, Mr. Webster. Economic Development Committee. Thank you, Ms. Redd. Operations and Administrative Committee, Mr. McDonald. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Public Works Committee. I don't believe we have a report.
No report. We are going to have a meeting next Tuesday.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, Mr. Gurl.
Thank you, Chairman. No report. We will have a meeting next Wednesday at 5:30.
Thank you, Mr. Gurl. Move on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business before the board this evening? None? What we do, we have an appointment that was read in on May 26, 2022. It's for the Windburst So Fire Protection District. Compensation is for $1,500 a year. The applicant is Charles W. Meyer Sr., and that is for a reappointment. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Webster and Mr. Booker seconds. Any discussion on the appointment? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this appointment? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. New business. Is there any new business in front of the board this evening? Very good. Announcements and communications. Clerk Lori Gummow.
Thank you, Chairman. The items listed below were received as correspondence.
Very good. Any board member communications? Mr. Gurl.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to thank you and State's Attorney Jay Hanley for coming to Rolling Green meeting on Tuesday, myself and Mr. Hoffman, to speak about what the county is doing to address our violent crime. So it's very informative, and I just want to thank you for coming out and actually telling folks what the county is doing and all the facets of criminal justice, not just the sheriff's office, but through the courts also.
Thank you, Mr. Girl. Any other board members? Mr. Booker?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to give a special shout out to our county clerk, Lori Gummow, and her staff on last month's elections, and glad to hear that staff in the SA's office worked out, ironed out some wrinkles and successful resolution there. But I'd also like to mention that it looks like the county turnout was at 22.5% voter turnout, which is kind of sad, but I was notified that by election judges that the districts, precincts in districts 1 and 2 had the higher voter turnout. And one precinct in particular, it's the precinct that I live in, had the highest number of voter turnout out of the entire county. Seward Township, 43% voter turnout. So they've got it going on out in Seward. They make sure they go door to door and make sure everybody gets to vote, and they get it done out there. They're having a potluck this Monday night. They got a special agent coming out to talk about her experience at 9/11 World Trade Center. So again, thanks to everyone. Thanks to the clerk's office, and hat tip to Seward Township. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. Any other board communications? None? Mr. Webster? Motions to adjourn, second by Mr. Neighbors. All in favor of the adjournment?